boomerang-shaped tail flukes, enabling them to fly, almost weightless, through the oceans. Their hind legs disappeared, buried deep within their flanks. Free from land-based pressures, free from droughts, earthquakes, ice ages, volcanoes, famines, larger brains evolved, 10 times as old as man's. Other creatures with a larger cerebral cortex, luxuriantly folded, intricately fissured, deep down in another country, moving at a different tempo. 50-million-year-old sagas of continuous whale mind. Rumors of ancestors, the Archaeoceti, with lifespans of 200 and 300 years. Accounts of the forces of nature, whale dreams, the minutiae of a shared consciousness, the accumulated knowledge of the past. Memories of loss, memories of ideal love, memories of meetings. The whale is good to imagine. The Quackyoodle of Alert Bay believe that the whale is a long life maker who brings prosperity. The Nootka claim that the whale allows his death to spare people from hunger, and that therefore they must be worthy of it. But other men have elected to view the whale as an essential component of an expanding economy. When an underwater shape is detected on the submarine radar, catcher boats are dispatched from the factory ship. The harpoon on the raised foredeck is manned and swiveled in the direction of the whale. Minutes pass. The whale's ribs become too heavy to move. The whale's rib muscles give up their strength. The air valves collapse, admitting a rush of seawater. The whale's lungs flood. She suffocates and dies, revolving slowly in the water, leaving her white stomach exposed. A hollow lance, attached to an airline, is fired at her upturned belly, feeding compressed air into her corpse to inflate it and keep it afloat. An identifying flag with a radar reflector and the catcher boat's number is logged into her. She is left adrift, rimmed with oil slick and blood. With no enemies in the sea, the whale is loath to believe in the attack, as were the Indians, as were the Aborigines. The factory ship, large as an aircraft carrier, with the capacity to deal with a whale every 30 minutes, draws alongside. A hole is bored into the nearest end of her body, lips or tail. A tow line is attached, and she is hauled to the bottom of the ramp. A set of moving claws is lowered towards her. The hawser wire is pulled. The curved fingers of the metal tongs bite. The whale is inched up the slope onto the fencing deck. Wearing spiked plates on their boots to pin themselves to the body, the fencing crew, armed with long-handled knives, slice into the whale, scoring huge straps, 18 inches wide and 10 feet long. Wires are looped around the ends of the loose flesh, and winches tear it from the whale's side. The whale is stuffed through manholes, to be carved into a sodden mess by whirring knives that lie below in rotating drums. The minced flesh is shunted into digester tanks and boiled down for 4 hours by superheated steam. The solid residue is dried and bagged up. The oil is piped into the separator house, double-boiled, centrifuged, hardened into half a dozen categories, barreled and stored. On deck, the skull, jawbones, ribs, spine and pelvis are dismembered with chainsaws, then ground down and shoveled into the bone cookers, melted and milled into chicken feed and fertilizers. From a whale who was pregnant, the unborn are dragged into the meat boilers with huge hooks slung into their blowholes. The The inner organs are towed into other boilers to be distilled into pharmaceuticals. The skin is collected from the slipways for glycerin. The belly blubber is reserved for a delicacy known as whale bacon. The jaw cartilage is pickled. The tail flukes are frozen to be eaten raw. The floating factory has done little but exchange 20,000 gallons of petroleum for 20,000 gallons of animal oil. Foreign currency has been acquired. The odd fact that no whale has been found with a serious pathological disease, no whale has ever been found suffering from cancerous tumors, is overlooked. Yet civilization was built on the back of the whale. Coastal settlements followed the presence of whales. Shore stations near the whaling grounds became cities. Boston, New York, Plymouth, Tokyo, Leningrad, Vladivostok, Lisbon, Bergen, Brest, Odessa, Yokohama, San Francisco, Reykjavik, Valdivia, San Pedro, Vancouver, Sydney, Durban, Rotterdam, Whitby, Hull, Darwin, Buenos Aires, Hobart, Wellington, Auckland, Helsinki, Seoul, Murmansk, Manila, Valparaiso, Glasgow, Dundee, Philadelphia, Liverpool, London, Hamburg. Urban conglomerations plugged into the corpse of the whale, growing larger and larger by its light. The whale's insulating wetsuits hacked off in flensing ships in untold billions. For fuel, for light, for lamps, and candle wax to turn night into day. For whale oil appliances for sweatshops and factories, for domestic lighting, for street lighting, for shop lighting, for flexible baleen filaments for watch springs, umbrellas, toys, and upholstery, even the springs in the first typewriter. Millions and millions and millions died in a marine holocaust, spawning the implacable human appetite for electricity, petroleum, and plastic. For soap, to be returned mixed with dirt into the sea. For Unilever margarine, for glycerol for lipstick and the idle fantasy world of beauticians, for glycerin for nitroglycerin, to blow a hole in the human herd, for brushes and brooms, for linoleum, for medical trusses, for leather, for sausage skins, for drum skins, for sword hilts and scabbards, for laces, for surgical stitches, for tennis racket strings, for riding crops, for chessmen, for buttons, for tanning, for artists' pigments, for golf bags, for varnishes, for parchment, for printing inks, for insecticide, for calcium for blanco and military purification, for calcium for fertilizer, to speed up the gestation of the earth, for the jute industry, for the wool industry, for the shoe industry, for the cotton industry, for engineering coolants, for tempering steel. Without the bloodletting of the whale, prime source of light and lubrication, the Industrial Revolution would have been scantily equipped. A spectral colossus haunts the inflated myth of progress, so keen to brush aside its hidden costs in the cause of pure profit, so forgetful in the bright name of novelty. For paint, for mahjong counters, for skin cream, for stock cubes, for cattle posts, for iodine, for endocrinal hormones, for those stiffened by arthritis, for liver oil and vitamins to treat those who are flagging, for insulin from the pancreas to treat those whose blood is too sweet, for detergents, for gelatine for the coating of photographic film, at which we see ourselves as we see ourselves incessantly, for gelatine for the transparent capsules of pills, for gelatine for jelly, for gelatine for glue, For stays and gussets and busks and bodices and statuesque corsetry emphasizing the breasts and hips, the aesthetic apparatus, the sensual sustenance of empire building. For fish bait, for cattle meal, for the food supplied to fur farms, for dog food, for cat food, for the fermentation process and the manufacture of antibiotics, for oiling the automatic transmission systems of automobiles, for antifreeze, for low-calorie cooking fat, for shortening for bread and pastry and cakes, for hair treatments, for bath essence, for steaks, sashimi slices and marinated yamatami, for wax crayons, for kujira nabe and obajuki soup, for whale meat rissoles, for whale meat stew, for pipes, for piano keys, for earrings, for brooches, for cufflinks, for cigarette holders, for shoe horns, for car wax, for shoe polish, for plasticizer, for fishing rods, for machine oil, for ambergris, burnt in religious ceremonies, to put you in good odor with the Almighty, for cosmetics, to put you in good odor with each other. The sullen killing continues, the killing of the largest creatures in the world. It is unthinkingly supposed that the rest of life will not be shriveled in the process. Large creatures disappear. Life becomes smaller. Blind dwarves crawl on top of the corpses of slaughtered giants to see further into their impending solitude. Gentle, visionary giants, most fully appreciated when dead, and reassuringly unreal.